Okie dokie. It's time to go live and see how the world is acting at the moment, which is not good to be fair. Which is not good to be fair. The world is not doing well. Okay, okay. I think we're gonna start with the newest, which is Russia's attack on Kyiv. It's unfortunate to read once again the aggressor doing the things that all of us has told like multiple times that they're doing, which is not caring about human lives or ending the conflict, and instead of escalating. At the same time, when Putin is saying that he doesn't have any eagerness to attack Europe, he's attacking Kyiv, which is not surprising. Because Putin, to be fair, is just stupid and crazy. So, kind of makes sense that he doesn't care about human life and he doesn't care about ending the conflict. It's not ideal, but it is the grim situation that we're in at the moment. So let's see. Russia attack on Kyiv cuts power to half of city and leaves 2 dead. Sounds and looks like a person who wants to make a peace plan. Hello, Patrick. Missile and drone attacks come amid Moscow's campaign to break Ukrainian civil resistance by attacking an energy grid. 2 people were killed and 37 were injured by a Russian drone and missile attack on the Ukraine capital that cut power to the western half of the city, leaving at least 500,000 residents without electricity. Nearly 600 drones and 36 rockets were fired into the country in an attack that its president Volodymyr Zelensky said highlighted Ukraine's need for Western help with air defense as well as other financial political support. We must work without wasting a single day to ensure that there are enough missiles for our air defense and that there everything necessary for our protection for pressure on Russia in place. Unfortunately, it's a bit too late already. Like we've given way too much. Hey, Dennis, way too much time for Russia to regain like their posture. Like Russia was looking really bad a year ago. So if like a year ago we would have pushed a bit more, I think the conflict could have ended. But now, the closer we get to the winter, the worse it's going to be for Ukraine. A 3rd person was killed in the surrounding Kyiv region. Officials say 2 waves of attack could be heard across the capital. The first starting at about 1 a.m. and the second around 7 a.m. before an all clear was given just before 9:30 a.m. Ukraine's military said it had struck the Afipsky oil refinery in Krasnodar, one of the largest in southern Russia, causing a fire at the plant. The site supplies diesel and jet fuel to Russian forces fighting in Ukraine. Russia engaged in a campaign to break Ukraine's civil resistance this winter by attacking its energy infrastructure, which is it's just sad to read. And it's looking like we're caving in and giving them what they want, which shouldn't happen, to be fair. Because if this conflict is way more important than people understand, because if Russia attacks the Ukraine without provocation and ends up as a winner, they get what they want, which is the areas. They get the security guarantees that Ukraine will not join NATO. So they win everything. And they started the whole thing without provocation. This is going to be a case study for other countries as well. For example, China has now a reason to attack Taiwan because they saw that Russia can do it in Ukraine, so they might as well do it. The United States can do the same thing around like Venezuela, Mexico, Colombia, Cuba, whatever they want to, just freely, because there's no consequences anymore. Also, Israel could do that to the surrounding areas and just demolish Palestine without any consequences, because Russia already did it and the Western world was just fine with it. So that's why I'm really invested in this conflict, is because I can look past what's going to happen after. And I can't fathom that there's not more people who can actually look past the conflict and what's going to happen afterwards. Even though Putin is laughing that he doesn't have any interest in Europe. Fuck, hell yeah. There are countries in Europe that Putin has interest in. Mainly the former Soviet countries. And they're going to be the next. None of the bordering countries can sleep easily after this conflict, if it ends like this. I don't understand TikTok. Your live is not eligible for recommendation and restricted in search results because it contains unoriginal or reproduced content. The appeal button doesn't work, so can't really do anything. Well, it is what it is. Anyways. But this is another example of like just Russia's aggression. Yo, what's good? Nothing much. NZF787. How are you doing? I'm doing fine. I'm doing okay. Fine is kind of a strong word. There's another news based on the same subject, which is like regarding this conflict. And it's Russia outlawing Human Rights Watch as crackdown on dissidents continues. So the Russian authorities have outlawed Human Rights Watch as an undesirable organization, making all involvement with the group a criminal offense. The Russia authorities Friday outlawed Human Rights Watch as an undesirable organization, a label that under a 2015 law makes involvement with such organizations a criminal offense. Stop and listen and think about this for a second. A country outlaws Human Rights Watch as an undesirable organization. And there are people who argue that this specific country is on the side of good, isn't a bad country. If a country outlaws Human Rights Watch, they are probably doing something that is against human rights. That's just like textbook villain, like Bond villain thing to do. The designation means their international human rights group must stop all work in Russia and opens those who cooperate with or support the organization to prosecution. The decision by the Russian Kremlin critics, journalists and activists, which has intensified to unprecedented levels since Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. In a separate statement on Friday, the office said it was opening a case against Russia's feminist punk band Pussy Riot that would designate the group as an extremist organization. But to be fair, if a punk band is designated, if a punk band is designated as a extremist group, they kind of succeeded what they wanted, because punk is fighting against the system, the government, and being those anarchists. So technically, Pussy Riot was already an extremist organization in the eyes of the government. if it wants to be a legit punk band. But I just don't understand how people watch this and think that what Kremlin and Putin is doing is good. They are cracking down opposition. They are silencing critics. They are silencing media. They are silencing their citizens. And people in the West, not all, like they're usually like lunatics in the West who are just clapping their hands and looking at this and like, yeah, that's really fucking awesome. No, I have a lot of, again, majority of the people in Russia doesn't want this, but they can't do anything because they have the same sort of like silence people who think differently mentality that they had during the Soviet Union era. So they can't really do anything. And we know that the government is willing to waste a lot of people in order to remain status quo, you know? We've seen that in the past. Read some Russian history and Soviet Union history. That's been their playbook for a long, long time, and it hasn't changed. It might not be as big in numbers anymore, but it's still happening. You could just like, if you want some like good history lessons, just go and check the few previous presidential elections. See what happened to the opposition candidates. It's easy to have presidential elections if your opposition is jailed for bogus reasons, or if they just end up dead, you know? Meanwhile, on Thursday, Russia's Supreme Court designated the Anti-Corruption Foundation set up by the late opposition activist Alexei Navalny as a terrorist group. The ruling targeted the foundation's US-registered entity, which became the focal point of the group when the original Anti-Corrupt Foundation was designated an undesirable organization by the Russian government in 2021. If you read that, the term undesirable organization means that they are against us, they are gaining too much traction, we need to silence them. Textbook fascism. I know a lot of right-wingers and MAGA people don't like anyone to call anybody a fascist, but that is textbook fascism. There is no doubt that other organizations will soon be designated as terrorist, independent media, human rights projects, and local initiatives, the foundation said in a statement. This is a political strategy used by the Russian authorities to declare anyone who interferes with their theft and endless war are enemies of the state. They rule by fear. Like, there's no sugarcoating with it. I think the citizens of Russia are suffering because their leaders are incapable of caring about their citizens, and they care more about themselves. When I'm talking about themselves, it's the Kremlin and the president, of course, at this point. And there's only been, I think, 2 leaders in the past 100 years. And we need to count into Soviet Union because Russia isn't 100 years. Well, Russia was before Soviet Union, so technically it's older, but like the past 100 years there was like Soviet Union and the new Russia. So there's only been 2 leaders that has actually cared about their citizens. Hey, what up, Dylan? You're back, bro. How you doing? And unfortunately for the past, I think it's almost 30 years, like 4 years now, like 2029, it's going to be 30 years since Putin came to power. And it's easy to stay in power if you just control the narrative. You don't allow fair elections. Ku, how are you? I'm doing fine. It's Saturday after all, so it's almost December. I'm just baffled about things happening around the world, like the US-Venezuela situation and the escalation in China and Japan's conflict and Russia and Kyiv, yeah, and all of that stuff. It's just, it's a never-ending barrage of like horrible news around the world. Russia's list of undesirable organizations currently covers more than 275 entities, including prominent independent news outlets and rights groups. Among those are prominent news organizations like Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, think tanks like Chatham House, anti-corruption group like Transparency International, and environmental advocacy organization WWF. Founded in 1978, Human Rights Watch monitors and researches human rights violations in countries across the world. It has been outspoken in its opposition to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and recently published an investigation into Russia's forces using drones to deliberately chase, injure, and kill civilians living in Ukraine's Kherson region, which is true. And I re-emphasize, if a country outlaws Human Rights Watch, whose only purpose is to research human rights violations, then that country probably is doing human rights violation. Not just one human rights violation, multiple human rights violations. And this is one organization that is really easy to see countries that don't allow this to practice on their soil. Those are, we know those countries. And those countries are the ones that are breaking human rights violations. Yo, I have to go already, but I hope to see you again. Bye. Thanks for dropping by, Dylan. Nice to see you again. No worries, no worries, no worries. But yeah, that's Russia. That's Russia for everyone. RRR. Are you sitting on your keypad? That was a bit too many R's there. 1 minute timeout, thanks. Then we have another wild news, which is Donald Trump doing Donald Trump things on the eve of Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and today. So Donald Trump says airspace above around Venezuela is closed. President made declaration in a social media post after the FAA last week warned airlines of foreseeing security situation. Donald Trump said on Saturday that the airspace above the surrounding Venezuela is to be closed in its entirety. Trump, in a Truth Social post, said to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Venezuela's communications ministry, which handles all press inquiries for the government, did not immediately reply to a request for comments on Trump's post. The U.S. Defense Department did not immediately respond to a request for a comment. U.S. strikes against alleged drug boats in the Caribbean have been underway for months. I'm back. There you go. Along with the U.S. military buildup in the region, and Trump has authorized covert CIA operations. I have a question for you, IO. Why are you typing R? I'm bored. Okay. That's a good reason. Where's Pete Hexet? Because I'm pretty sure Pete Hexet tweeted something about this. No, not this one. Well, I wonder what was this account. How many accounts does one person have? You need a haircut pro. No, I don't. Nah. If you're jealous about my hair, just that's okay. Just try and grow it. If you can't grow it, tough luck. You know? There's so many people balding already when they're 20s, and I'm not in my 20s anymore. I can grow my hair, so I understand that people can be jealous about that. The president told military service members this week that the US would very soon begin a land operation to stop suspect Venezuelan drug traffickers. Last week, the US Federal Aviation Administration FAA warned major airlines of a potentially hazardous situation when flying over Venezuela due to a worsening security situation and heightened military activity in or around. Venezuela revoked operating rights for 6 major international airlines that have suspended flights to the country after the FAA warning. The Trump administration has accused the Venezuelan president Nicolas Maduro of involvement in drug trafficking, a charge he has denied. This is ironic. This is freaking ironic. So, the Ministry of War. I don't know if it's like Ministry of War or something like. What the hell is it called nowadays? Department of War. Sorry. So, who the hell did tweet the... I'm pretty sure it was... No, it was a Homeland Security for some reason. No. One of these asshats tweeted something about Venezuela. Hi, can I give a shout out to a buddy of one on this? Said hi. Can I give a shout out? Oh, go ahead. I don't mind. Depends on the body though. So, the Trump administration, the Ministry of War, the Department of War, and Homeland Security, and all of them are saying that they are attacking Venezuela potentially really soon because the president of Venezuela was involved in drug trafficking. Here's where the irony comes. If we go and look at the newest headline, which is this happened yesterday. So Trump is going to pardon ex-Honduras president who was actually convicted of drug trafficking. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, you know? So they are saying that they are blowing up those fishing boats in the Gulf of Mexico, attacking Venezuela. Can you shout out Rosetta Mixes? Rosetta Mixes, shout out. Shout out to Rosetta Mixes. I don't know who that is. Trump is a donkey. That guy, yeah, kind of... I tried to be a bit more tamer, but yeah. One of the viewers said, like in the last stream, Mango Mussolini was the newest nickname for Trump. So, but Trump and his administration are trying to attack the drug trafficking industry, the cartels around the Gulf of Mexico. I'm Irish, my apologies. I'm also in Ireland, but I'm Finnish though. So they are trying to attack the cartels and trying to limit the drug trafficking in the Gulf of Mexico, and they are attacking Venezuela because they accuse the Venezuelan president of being a part of drug trafficking. In the same time, Trump is actually pardoning a kingpin drug lord. So Donald Trump has said that he will pardon the former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was convicted of drug trafficking charges in a U.S. court last year. Get them out. Who are we getting out? Me? You want me to go out from Ireland? That would be weird. I pay taxes here, so I'm valuable. You want me? Whoa! You want me to get out from Ireland? So you want taxpayers who pay a lot of taxes to Ireland get out of Ireland? You're not Irish. I never claimed that I'm Irish. In a few years, I'm Irish. What are you gonna say then? We are in Ireland. You, if you don't mind me asking, I'm in the north, above Galloway. You don't need to be Irish in order to live in Ireland. You know, I love Ireland. I like it. I've been in Ireland for 3 years already. I don't live in UK. Oh, very posh. Would you be in Mayo? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I can't really disclose that. Where is Tipperary? You will never be Irish. I will. And that will. And now that I know it annoys you, I like. That's gonna be my life's mission to become. Oh, you're okay, okay, okay. Yeah, actually, when when we moved here, we used to live in Cork, but when we moved up north, we actually went through Tipperary because we wanted to avoid Limerick, so I took the side roads. Hi, Limerick checking. Limerick, I have to say, uh, Limerick has a bad rep, and being in Limerick multiple times, I think, yeah, I understand it, but it is a beautiful city. I do like Limerick. I like we lived in Cork, and you guys know that the people in Cork they have opinions about other cities around Ireland. So a lot of people were bashing Limerick, and I was like, well, I kind of have to see it for myself to formulate an opinion about it. So I went to Limerick, and then I went there again and again, and I think like Limerick gets a bad rep for just a few areas of the city. Yeah, it's not that bad of a place, just certain areas like everywhere. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like I think just a few areas in Limerick gives it the bad rep because like the we walked around Limerick, we went a lot of places, and I was there with my kids. And it's a nice city. And well, it's not in my top though. Just live by the hospital, spending 70% my time there anyway. Dora Doyle Raheen is a chill. I have to say though, I don't know if this is a hot topic in Ireland or not, but Galloway. I freaking love Galloway. I don't live in Galloway. Galloway is kind of close where I live though. So I have visited Galloway many, many times. Galloway is one of my favorite places. But this is going to be a shocker for everyone. And I do think that one day it's going to be once again a part of the island. But one of my favorite cities in this island is Belfast. Believe it or not, I used to live in Belfast, so if you haven't visited Belfast, I highly recommend it. I know Galway, very beautiful spot. I have relations up in Connemara. Oh yeah, Galway is just like. Oh, okay. To be fair, the reason why we moved out of Cork is like there's too many people. Even though we lived in Passage West, which is like close to Monkstown, next to the ocean, but there was still like too many people around Cork, and if you wanted to go to the centrum, there's too many people there. And Galloway is on the brink of that. Like it's not too big, but I kind of like those smaller towns, you know. And the town we live at the moment is one of those smaller towns, and I kind of like that. There's like a flip side to that coin. When you live in a small town, you everybody kind of knows you immediately. You know, you meet people for the first time and you say hi to people and such. Next time, you just need to wave your hand all the time because it's a small community, so everybody knows. I don't mind that, but then again, this specific town is I love it because people mind their own business and, you know, give space, which is nice. And when we have those community events around the town or those big festivals here, it's really nice that everybody comes together and like be a part of that community. I really enjoy that. Do I miss Cork? Not really. Like, Cork is nice. Don't get me wrong. There's good things about Cork, but I do like smaller cities or towns. Never, I would never move to Dublin. Dublin has too many people there. Like, I'm more of a relaxed person nowadays, and I have kids and everything. So I heard I have mixed information about the Galway Christmas market. Like, we are going this year. I think it's gonna be like literally. Is it next week? I think it's next week that the Galway, or the week after that. Like, there's that. There's a big week because I have like locals who live in like Clare Morris and Foxford and other places who know who's been into Galway, because we moved in here in North. We moved around June, so this is the first Christmas we're gonna be here. Other Christmases we were in Cork, and Christmas in Cork is wild. But they told me that I think it's like either next week or the week after that. That's the biggest like event in Galway. But still, I have like mixed information. Some say that it's not as good as it's marketed, and others say that it is really awesome. You should go. So we are definitely going. The whole family are going there, and I'm probably gonna do like just TikToks and probably live there, just to see like and show everybody how it's like and give an honest opinion about it. I'm looking forward to. Like, I'm also looking forward to the first Christmas in this town, because I know that the smaller the towns in Ireland, the bigger the celebrations technically. Even though, like, if you haven't been in Cork for Christmas, I highly recommend going to Cork in Christmas. It is a spectacle there. So New Year's is another thing. I was supposed to go, but getting stuff sorted here. Yeah, and Christmas market, it's a hit or miss. It depends on the person. I wouldn't necessarily go myself if I was alone, but because I have like kids and I have a wife, so the more the community comes together in smaller towns, villages. Yeah, it's the same in Halloween. Like, people went crazy here in Halloween. We were like, the area we live in this town is like reminds me a lot of those like suburban areas from like Boston, or suburban areas from like the East Coast American cities. It's a really close community. It has like, I think 20-30 houses here, but people were shooting rockets and like stuff during Halloween, and everybody was out celebrating even though the weather wasn't that good. But still, like, the community is just incredible. Just 100%. But I wouldn't necessarily go to myself if I didn't have kids, or if I didn't have a wife. I wouldn't go to the Christmas markets. I'm kind of a introverted person when it comes to those. Like, I like to talk to people, but I don't like crowded places. It kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies, you know? Too many peoples. Too many peoples. Which is kind of ironic, because now I'm talking here with random people, which is not something that an introvert would do. But maybe it's just like I just don't enjoy being around a lot of people. I don't know. It's kind of weird. One thing my local colleagues that had to learn from me, because I'm Finnish. So us Finns are kind of, we love talking. We love to be social, but we don't start conversations. For example, I respect people's privacy and I respect their personal like boundaries. So I tend not to start conversations with people, especially if we're working or something. It might come as like really rude, just saying hi and going past you. But if somebody comes to me and they want to talk, I will talk for hours if they start the conversation, but I will never instigate the conversation. It's not because I don't like you. It's not because I don't want to talk to you. It's just because I don't want to burden you with my presence if you have something better to do. And I don't want to bother asking because that's also a burden. Well, I've subscribed to your channel, plus I'm the only one watching. Yeah, but I do have TikTok also and Twitch, so there's people there. So I'm not just talking to YouTube, and YouTube has two chats as well, but the other chat doesn't really work. So I think this is the vertical one. So, oh, very good, my bad. Nah. But it's usually like other chats. There's people there watching, but they're like what do you call them? This is lurking around, lurkers. That's the one. But yeah, Ireland is just great, and like our plan here, and I know where's the person that didn't want Squirrel Letita 81 Letita that doesn't want me to be in Ireland and wants to deport me. Our plan is to stay in Ireland and actually apply for a citizenship as soon as it's possible, because our plan is to stay here. I don't have any plans to go back to Finland. Like, Ireland is literally the perfect place for us. And the reason why we moved here was, first of all, well, we got a job offer, both of us, me and my wife. But then again, this is a really good place for our kids because they, of course, knew already English. My older one knew French. My younger one knows Swedish. And my younger one now knows Irish. So they integrated really quickly. Of course, they're like, my oldest one is 15, my youngest one is 9. So they integrated super fast and made a lot of friends and like, but furthermore, like, their future here is better than Finland, which is probably hard to understand why. But now you have kids in school, don't live. Oh yeah, we're not planning to live. Like, if everything goes as planned, we're gonna be here until like the unseeable future. Probably as long as our youngest one is still in school, because our oldest one is probably gonna, she's gonna have the decision of like what university does she wants to go, or what college first. Yeah, the reason is because Finland has a really good educational system and really good universities, but they're not really applicable anywhere else than in Finland, which is annoying. So if you want to use your university degree from Finland abroad, you need to take an extra year or two to make them applicable internationally, or do what we did with my wife, which is contact a university in Barcelona and literally just buy the degree, because we've already completed everything. We just need that like international degree, which it baffles me that you need to have that like extra 1 year or 2 years. So there's actually like online universities that gives you a bit of a pain compared to here. Oh yeah, 100%. And because this is an English-speaking country as well. So, for example, my oldest one wants to become maybe actress or musician. So there's more opportunities when it comes to like colleges and universities here for like drama and like theater and other stuff. So than in Finland. And of course it's English, so you have more opportunities in general. And who knows, maybe my daughter wants to go to France because she knows how to speak French, or if she wants to go to German because she knows how to speak German. Like, well, to Canada, US, UK, wherever she wants to go. There's more opportunities for our kids. So we didn't move here only because we already had jobs here. We kind of moved here more so because of our kids. Oh, and okay, to be fair, there was also security reasons. There's a I don't know if you Irish know, but us Finns know it really well that we have a big threat on the east in Finland. And because of what's going on in the Ukraine, I don't know, did you join when I was talking about the Ukraine situation that Russia attacked Kyiv again? We kind of wanted to distance ourselves from the conflict, just in case, you know. My friends also know this in Finland, so if a conflict arises to Finland, they drive to Sweden, hop on a plane, and come to here, and they'll find jobs. Like all of my friends are like hard workers, and they're Finnish, so it's a bit of a stereotype in Finland, but we do love working. Like working is everything we do, and wherever we go, we integrate. So Finnish immigrants are like top notch when it comes to that. We will do any job as well. We don't need to do the job we're trained for, you know? Like, our life meaning is to work. It's not a happy life, but yeah, our life goal is to work. I do love my fellow Finns, but you're definitely very safer here. It's a nice and peaceful setting over here. Yeah, the only thing we need to be worried about here is the neighbor to the east as well and in the north, but UK hasn't started shit in a while, so maybe we're good. So I don't think UK has the capacity to start shit with us here in Ireland. They can try, but we will put them to the place. The only thing is, like, I'm kind of sad because, like, of course, UK kind of backed up for the Brexit limitations and made exceptions for Ireland, which is good because UK won't do nothing, no fear. They tried in the past, didn't end that well. The history between Ireland and UK is like one of the first things I did when I moved to Belfast back in 2011. Was because you know that when you live in Belfast, you kind of need to know the history of UK and Ireland. Otherwise, you will get you will get a nosebleed and a black eye if you go to the wrong side of the town and say the wrong thing. One of my Finnish friends in Belfast learned that the hard way. They only got those 6 counties. That is true. Which is a funny story. One of my friends moved to Belfast as well. I think a few months after we moved there, with my wife. We're still like together. We've been together forever now. So one of my friends moved there, and we went to Falls, and I can show it. Map. Thanks. There we go. So we went to Falls. It's not center. Let's see if I can get this bigger. Thanks. Google Maps. Open up. There we go. So we lived. Wait a second. How am I looking this? This looks weird. No. That's what I thought. Falls Road. There we go. That looked weird. So, if you go to Falls, Falls is a prominently Catholic area, which means that you don't necessarily want to mention UK, British, or the English. And my friend didn't study the history as well. So we went to Falls because we went around all the places. We used to live on the Antrim Road, actually next to this plant of water here, which is Waterworks. Yeah, Waterworks. We actually lived here. I can... Oh my god, this brings back memories. So, oh, wait a second. 1, 2... Yeah, this door. We used to live here in Belfast. This brings back memories. Oh god. Yeah, so the downstairs neighbor was a local. We lived upstairs, and so these were our windows, and this was our window, and yeah, the whole street here was full of people from Norway, Sweden, even Finland, all the and Denmark. So we had a full Nordic street, and in every apartment here, there was always a local living downstairs, like a local Belfast person, who was also one of the best guides to have when you're new to that place and you learn the workings of that place. Anyways, let's go back to Falls Road. So we went to Falls with my friend, and I didn't give a prep talk because like I thought that he learned the same things as I did. So we went to a local pub there, and of course they recognized our accents and understood that we're not locals, so they wanted to know if we're where we are from, because in Belfast, I don't know if it's the same thing now, but back then they didn't like Polish at all. So the reason why they asked where you're from is to make sure you're not Polish. So when they found out that we're from Finland, they were really happy about that, mainly because we weren't Polish. And this is no joke. Like, we were asked if we're Polish all the time, and they were super happy every time we mentioned that we're not Polish. Anyways, so one of the locals on the bar counter asked my friend, like, what's the best thing about Belfast? And like, my friend said that this is one of the most beautiful cities in England that I've ever been. Immediately when I heard that he said that this is one of the most beautiful cities in England, I knew shit is gonna go down. I start turning and looking at my friend, and he was already being thrown out the bar, like the pub door. One guy was holding him from the neck, and one guy was holding him from the hips, and they just threw him through the fucking door out the streets. And then I looked at the bartender, and the bartender was like, you know, and I was like, yeah, cheers for the drink. And I got between one, and I said, I'm really sorry about that. And he was like, no, don't worry about that, but you might want to go and check on your friend. Went outside, and he actually was like thrown with such force that he went through the door. Well, the door just slammed open. He didn't go through the door, but the door like opened, and he flew through the doorway and to the taxi waiting there. I don't know who the taxi was for, but he slammed his head through the taxi door. Yeah, we learned the hard way that we don't do that. There's another area here that my friend almost got stabbed, which is it's called Tiger's Bay, but so Tiger's Bay is another area that this is yeah, definitely have to be careful what you say. Tiger's Bay is an interesting area because it's dominantly Protestant, so it's the other side. But what I learned in Belfast is the Catholic side is more welcoming for foreigners. The Protestant side is more like, okay, you're foreigners, could you get the fuck out? That was literally what we were told, because there's a little here somewhere. Because there's Duncan Gardens is here, which is we lived in here. So this was my road to the gym, was like through Duncan Gardens, through here, and our gym was somewhere around here. I don't remember. I needed to cross the no, the city hall is there. It's actually earlier, so it's somewhere here. So there's a little here somewhere. Nearby. Little. Let's see how... Oh, it was that far off. No, I'm pretty sure it wasn't that... Maybe they moved the place, but... Could be that one. It's been so long that I don't remember, but I remember being in Little, which was still in the Tiger Bay area. And... lovely... skin-headed couple came to us and asked, like, who are you, where you're from? And we explained that we just moved here a few months ago, and we're from Finland, and we noticed that there's a little here, so we wanted to come visit because we have littles in Finland, so it kind of felt like home. And they were like, okay, that's nice, that's nice. Once you visited Little, could you fuck off? And we were like, huh? Yeah, like after we go to Little, we're planning to go back home. No. After you go to Little, you go back where you came, and you don't come back here. And I was like, what? That's kind of fucking hostile. But that was literally the attitude of this whole area here. So it's a beautiful city though. Shankill Road, oh my god. That brings back memories. That's like one of the go-to places if you just want to like sightseeing. It's a really grim. That's the British for you, 100%. Shankill Road is a pretty grim place because of history. If you know Belfast history, you know what happened in Shankill Road quite a few times. But Shankill Road and Shankill area in general is like really nice if you like about learn about history and just sightseeing important places that took place during the troubles of like 60s to 90s. We spent hours here just wandering around with me and my wife and our kids because they have murals here in the houses, and they have like statues here, monuments for like things that happened here. So this is a really nice place. And even though this is a mixed place, so even though you see a lot of like English flags and British flags, there's still a lot of Irish people, like Catholics living here. And because this area learned it the hard way that we need to go exist. That's the reason why there's a lot of Irish people here as well. It's not welcoming. If you look at the flags and everything, you might have a different view of it. But there's a lot of Irish people here as well. Most of them are locals, though. Like, you know, born and raised, Northern Irish. One place we didn't spend that much time in Belfast was actually the south side of Belfast. Because it wasn't as fascinating to be in the south side. And then we have the maze. There we go. This is a good place to visit. I still think they do. I wonder if they do the tourist rounds there still. When we were there, they did those. So you can actually go in the maze, which is, those who don't know, maze is a prison that they imprisoned a lot of political and a lot of domestic terrorists, quote unquote domestic terrorists, depends on how you look at the provisional IRA or the IRA itself. They housed a lot of the prison cells there because, well, the Ulster police and the British SAS put a lot of people there. Did you see the Titanic up in Belfast back in the day? I'm not that old, but I have visited Titanic Belfast Museum, though. I'm not that old. One thing I don't like, as you can see, Belfast had one IKEA. And we lived here. So IKEA was literally on the other side of the town. And Belfast wasn't back then made for walking. So we actually needed to rent a van to go there, which is terrifying for a young person to drive on the wrong side of the road. So instead of a van, I think we did like a few taxi trips there just to get. I don't understand why they put IKEA on the other side of the fucking city in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't make sense. There was also, oh, where's the Castle Court? There we go. Castle Court. Castle Court is a huge shopping center in the middle of Belfast. And there was a bit of a terrorist threat when we were there. We didn't notice it, but we read it on the Sunday Belfast Telegram that while we were actually shopping there, they found a white van outside Castle Court filled with C4 explosives, which was like, after, in hindsight, that was terrifying. Reading that on a Sunday, saying that Saturday during like 1:30 p.m. they found that van there, and we were literally in Castle Court between 12 and 2, so we were there when that van was present. So, and then I saw a bomb defusal robot, because back then, if you go and check like 2011, 2012, they decided to remove the Union Jack flag from the town hall. So they only had the tricolor there. So the British didn't really like that. So there was a lot of protest when we get there, which was fascinating to see, because in Finland you don't see protests like that. So seeing like pipe bombs and Molotov cocktails and like just rocks thrown at riot police, that was something that I've never experienced before that and never experienced since. And it really opened my eyes also what it looks like when citizens aren't satisfied about something and they are willing to fight for it. And it also been brought up that, like, you know, things I've read about like the Trouble era, about the history of the town and the citizens, it brought up a lot of those, like, okay, now I really understand why they were so fast to react for the oppression that the British had for the Catholic side of the town. So there I was thrown with rocks and crazy, just over religion. Yeah, literally just over religion. Well, there was I think there was also a deeper meaning, like on the British side, because the British side didn't really consider Irish on par with the British. So there was also that dehumanizing factor on the British side. So it was just not about, it wasn't only about religion. Religion played a part of, like, it was the main reason to give to the public. But the underlying reason became aware throughout like the Troubles, when the documents were released and everything, that actually the British government and the British Irish worthy of living in Britain. So it's just, it was a bit of a bigger issue and conflict altogether. But it's still one of the more beautiful places to visit, especially because of its rich history. And I love history, so cities like this are the go-to places. And I know, for example, Cork's history is really important when it comes to Belfast history, because like a lot of gun shipments came to Cork, and they were smuggled to Belfast. So there's that as well. So, but I do love history, and that's why I do love talking about politics as well. Lots of history down south in the Republic. There is I would say more history there. History is my favorite. Yeah, and one of the topics that I've learned in living in Cork and living here where I live at the moment is like, a lot of the locals don't really care about going to Belfast, which is wild, because after living there myself and just fascinated about the history, like, I've visited a lot of places in Finland that shit got real back in like the Second World War, the Civil War, the war with Russia, Sweden and everything. I've visited a lot of those castles and everything. But Irish don't really, at least the people I've talked to, doesn't really care to go to Belfast. And like, for example, our previous landlord in Cork he's like almost 60. He's never visited Belfast. He has relatives who lives in Derry and other places in the Northern Islands, but he doesn't really care to go there. And he was really surprised that I was really interested about Belfast because, like, he said that it's a shithole, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, Ireland has a lot of history, right? Especially like really, really long history with the Vikings even. So that's why a lot of locals, especially young ones, are really fascinated when you say that you're from the Nordic countries. They're like, oh, our history is like tangled together for a brief moment. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. Even though Finnish were never Vikings, though. That's one thing that we Finns like to always correct when people assume that we were Vikings. We actually weren't Vikings. We were woodsmen and merchants. That's about it. We did fight with the Vikings. We fight against the Vikings as well. But we really never were considered Vikings, though. We were more like shamans and woodsmen living in the woods and like modern day hippies. Oh my god, I could just talk about Ireland the whole day. Ireland is just fucking awesome. Airbus issues major A320 recall after mid-air incident grounds planes, disrupting global travel. I haven't. Just a second, I'll copy that and paste it to my wife. So I copy pasted that comment and I messaged my wife about that so I can check that out and see what that is. Oh, we should probably go here. This is something that you only see in Lapland in Finland, like scenery like this. We have really boring scenery when it comes to like places. Where is this? Oh, okay, it's in Donegal. It's not that bad. Wait a second. Yeah, it's not that bad. We're kind of close. Not that far off. If you want to hear a good story, that's a really good one. Oh yeah, 100%. I need to investigate more about that. But let's talk about Airbuses. Immediate software change on significant number of jets to result in disruption to half the worldwide fleet. Airlines around the world cancelled and delayed flights heading into the weekend after Airbus announced on Friday that it had ordered immediate repairs to 6,000 of its A320 family of jets in a recall affecting more than half of the global fleet. Wow. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, which is the main certifying authority of A320 aircraft, issued the instruction on Friday night as a precautionary action, saying that safety is paramount. The US Federal Aviation Administration also issued an emergency airworthiness directive for certain Airbus planes requiring the aircraft. Oh my god, like, imagine like people been flying with this and then reading this news like, oof. The fix mainly involves reverting to earlier software and is relatively simple but must be carried out before the planes can fly again, according to the bulletin to airlines seen by Reuters. Of the 6,000 jets affected, a subset will need a time-consuming hardware change rather than a quick software fix. Though the number that required more extensive fixes was smaller than the initial estimate of 1,000, Airbuses said. The recall came over Thanksgiving holiday in the US, but Delta said it expected the issue to affect fewer than 50 of its A321 Neo aircraft. United said 6 planes in its fleet were affected and it's expected minor disruptions of a few flights. The world's largest A320 operator, American Airlines, said... Hey, Jonathan, thanks for the follow. American Airlines said 209 of its 480 A320 aircraft would need to fix. It said it mostly expected these to be completed by Saturday with about 2 hours required for each plane. This is kind of hard for the US, actually, because they need to fly everywhere, especially it's Thanksgiving weekend, so... Tough timing, if you ask me. In Australia, Jetstar cancelled 90 flights with 34 of 85 of the company's A321 aircraft identified as having the problem, leaving thousands of Australians stranded at airports around the country. Affected customers documented long queues at the airports on social media. And the best part about this is like they're not probably getting compensated. Depends on the country you are. If you're in Finland, you're gonna get compensated. If you're in the US, no, tough fucking luck. ANA Holdings, Japan's biggest airline, said it had cancelled 65 flights on Saturday after the recall forced it to ground some aircrafts. All Nippon Airways, which operates more than 30 planes, cancelled 65 domestic flights. No, you're at the wrong... Oh, okay. I'm on about the one in County Clare, massive tourist attraction. You gotta go back to work. Hopefully, our paths cross again. 100%. Like I'll be live every now and then. So you're bound to. Thanks for dropping by and keeping me company. It's always fun to talk to another person from Ireland because, well, you can share things to me that I don't know, and 100% we need to investigate a bit more. So it's in County Clare. So I'll actually take that from you as well. County Clare. Have a great... did you say you're going to work? Working in night shifts. Beautiful. Or evening shifts, I don't know. Lucky for me, I don't have to. I used to work in evening shifts. Now I'm really happy that I don't have to do that anymore. Have a great workday. Thanks for dropping by. There are about... Gotta pay the bills. Yeah, understand. That I do. I would love to work night shifts, so night shifts are the best. You get to chill during the night and just sleep during the day, and you know, that would be the dream. There are about 11,300 A320 family aircraft in operation worldwide, including 6,440 of the core A320 models, which first flew in 1987. I have to check this because my wife sent me this. 10 strange unexplained mysteries of 2025. I have no idea what this is, and I'm a bit scared. Usually my wife doesn't delve into like conspiracy theories, but let's see what this is. 2025 has been a year of paradoxes, hasn't it? For some, it has been their best year ever. For others, it has been the dumpster fire that continues to spark new flames. And in between, weird things get happening that no one could explain. As 2025 draws to close, let's look at some of the strangest mysteries that have yet to be explained. Vanished plane. How did a plane carrying a couple and their dog go missing? What?
The callers one on the afternoon of Saturday, the 3rd of August. Pilot Gregory Vaughan, his partner Kim Warner, and their dog Molly took off from Georgetown Airport in northern Tasmania. They were flying this plane, a 2-seater Bristol S light sport aircraft, which Mr. Vaughan bought about 3 or 4 months ago. The couple had planned to refuel at Leongatha in southeast Victoria before travelling on to Hillston in regional New South Wales to visit loved ones. They told a family member when they expected to arrive. When they didn't, that relative raised the alarm at about 5 o'clock on Saturday evening. Tasmania Police and the Australian Maritime Safety Authority began to search for the pair, focusing on Tasmania's northern coastline. But pilots aren't required.
On August 2nd, 2025, 72-year-old Gregory Vaughan, 66-year-old Kim Warner, and their dog Molly boarded a small green aircraft at the Georgetown airport on their northern Tasmanian coast. Their destination was central New South Wales, and their flight path would lead them across the infamous Bass Strait. They were supposed to stop for fuel in regional Victoria before heading on to Hillston. Just after 5 p.m, a family member of Vaughan's alerted authorities that the couple had not arrived at Hillston Airport as planned. A full-scale search was launched shortly after. Vaughan, who piloted the plane, did not make contact with authorities at any point during the flight, and no distress call was received. By August 5th, neither the couple, their dog, nor the plane had been found. Challenging weather conditions slowed the aerial search, but even after operation resumed, police remained no closer to knowing what happened. Well, that kind of just sounds like, if you think about it, like 72-year-old, 66-year-old. Maybe that's one of those, like, let's go together plans. Kind of sounds like that, you know? Yeah, we're getting kind of old, so it's time to hit the hay. Let's jump in the plane and just fly into nothingness. I hope it's not that, but, like, sounds kind of... Search of UFO sightings in Ireland. What the hell, Ireland? Ireland has experienced a wave of unexplained aerial sightings throughout 2025, many of which have been documented by locals across multiple counties. In early January, people reported bright lights hovering in the sky before disappearing across Newry, Dublin, and Youghal. In April, a witness in Portobello saw a triangle with 3 lights and a faint beam beneath it. That same day, someone else in County Meath reported 2 bright orbs change color before vanishing, none of which matched aircraft activity at the time. Reports continued into mid and late 2025, with people describing orbs, hazy lights, and hovering objects that dropped out of view. These incidents occurred in both urban and rural areas, on clear nights and overcast ones. So far, there has been no scientific or official explanation. I have a scientific explanation. They're fucking lights.
Indeed, as it may seem, reports coming in last night from
a new phenomenon has emerged in the Irish skies. Sparkling curiosities weren't the only ones to encounter this object. The crafts performing manoeuvres no known aircraft could achieve. Let's look at some examples. A short exchange was caught between multiple pilots and described a similar view. While reporting what he saw, one of the pilots added, "I've never seen something amazing like that before." Another example of an unidentified aircraft in the skies was back in 2018, the Irish Aviation Authority disappearing from view. Pilots
discovered that...
Yeah, like, those could be drones, those could be military drone aircraft or something like that. And they would never be, like, publicly announced what they are. So, one thing they are not UFOs. That's one thing that can be said for certain. They are not UFOs. Because we know that humans are really quick to pull the trigger. So if there was a UFO in our airspace, it would definitely be shot down. The same in the US when they had UFO sightings. You really believe that the US Army would let anyone fly an unidentified flying object in their airspace without taking it down. So whenever you see something flying in the sky, it's allowed to be there. Faceless intruder. One of the eeriest paranormal reports of 2025 comes from Chester Castle, a medieval fortress with 900 years of history. In October, motion detection cameras captured a pale, hooded, faceless figure standing at the main gates, exactly where the medieval gatehouse once stood. Come on. What the hell is my wife sending me? The control room immediately contacted the guard on duty. When he arrived, he felt as though something was watching him. His dog refused to leave the vehicle despite his fear. He searched the grounds but found no intruders and no signs of forced entry. English Heritage later received an influx of unusual reports from multiple sites. A disembodied hand at Polsey Hall soldiers disappearing into the forest of Rest Park, and the sound of a bouncing ball echoing through the Rest Park after closing hours. No explanation has been found for these strange sightings.
Tonight, we're stepping into a chilling enigma from one of England's most ancient fortresses. The city of Chester itself has ancient roots. Originally by William the Hugh, castle was a formidable administrative role.
Yeah, I want to see the
though
pictures.
Parts were a cloak or a more ethereal, a ghostly hooded figure.
Wait a fucking second. This is why every time we're talking about UFOs or paranormal activity, or when we're talking about ghosts, all the pictures are from the fucking 50s. There's more pixels in this picture than actual picture. We're living in the year 2025. The picture clarity and quality is so good, except when we're filming or taking a picture of a UFO sighting or paranormal activities.
Figure walking precisely in the area was cloak or a more ethereal, quote unquote, the size of a small bear. Castle in Derbyshire reports includes, if you really,
and of course, like if you want to see something in a picture, you can see it. You know, when somebody says that, hey, there's a shadowed figure in a picture, and if there's actually like something that could resemble a person, then you start to see the same thing. So the minds are easily manipulated. Spy balloons. Public anxiety about unexplained high-altitude object has been growing since the Chinese spy balloon incident in 2023. Sporadic sightings continued into 2024, but in 2025 they increased again. Why? Why the hell does a normal citizen give a two damns about like spy balloons? I don't. There's armies and governments about like handling this stuff, so we don't really need to like worry ourselves. A Stratolite balloon was spotted over Colorado in October, following sightings of Wisconsin in June and Alaska in August. News outlets have stated that these objects were research balloons, but locals remain skeptical. The biggest concern is privacy. No one knows what data is being collected or who ultimately benefits from it. Well, again, if a balloon like that is flowing in US airspace, the US knows about it. The US military knows about it. Those balloons aren't there without the US military knowing about them. Either trust your government or you don't. Easy as that. Drones again. If it isn't balloons, it's drones. At the beginning of November, unidentified drones appearing near a Belgian military base known to house US nuclear weapons. Belgian Defense Ministry expressed deep concern. The drones arrived in two waves, first on Saturday and then again Sunday night. The initial phase involved testing local security radio frequencies. Larger drones followed, which officials said were intended to destabilize the area and the people. The minister characterized the activity as espionage and suggested he had an idea where the drones originated, but declined to speculate publicly. Russia? That's code for Russia. Oh my god. What's happening with 3i Atlas? Nothing. It's a fucking space rock. It wasn't a spaceship. The world wasn't being abducted. There was nothing fishy about 3i Atlas other than the speed and the acceleration, which also were already like explained to be because of the close proximity of planets and other entities with gravity, that they can actually accelerate the speed. On July 1st, the NASA-funded Atlas telescope discovered 3i Atlas, only the third confirmed interstellar object in history. According to NASA, the object likely formed around an old star, consisted largely of carbon dioxide ice, and poses no threat to Earth. But others disagree. Controversial astronomer Avi Loeb claims the object's extraordinary precise trajectory, passing within 5 degrees of Earth's orbital plane, has only a 0.2% chance of happening by coincidence. He also pointed to its color shifts, large size, negative polarization, and lack of traditional tails as signs that something about 3I Atlas remains unexplained. Fuck no. Although Loeb's theories are disputed, several aspects of 3I Atlas are still a mystery, including why it shifts color, how long it has been traveling through interstellar space, and how it was originally ejected. Well, if there's rare minerals on the surface, or water, or ice, it might change colors based on how you view it, because of, like, light, different radiation rays. I mean, these are quite widely known things to make objects in space change colors. Radiation rays, light in general, which is also a radiation ray, and if it has rare minerals or other compounds on the surface that bounce different frequency of light. So it's not really a phenomenon that needs further study.
Pass within about 210 million kilometers of our star. Although in space we typically use a larger form of measurement, everything in space is constantly in motion, and every object in the solar system rotates around the sun because we are all trapped by its force of gravity. The fact that we are moving is what keeps us. Astronomers clocked the velocity of this new asteroid. They were shocked. This was the fastest moving object ever detected in our solar system. Let's establish some scale here. The planet Earth orbits the sun at a speed of 30 kilometers per second. That's us. We're moving pretty fast and we're pretty close to the sun, but there are planets that are a lot closer. Here is Mercury, 0.4 astronomical units from the surface of the sun. It gets cooked, and to avoid falling into the gravity well, Mercury has to orbit at a velocity of around 48 kilometers per second. The new object discovered by Atlas was moving at 58 kilometers per second, and at the time, it was still way out there, just inside the orbit of Jupiter. That's about 4.5 AU away from the sun. And at that speed, it was clear that this object was going to blow straight past the sun and just keep on going. We call this a hyperbolic trajectory, meaning that this thing had come from the void, from interstellar space, and that's where it was going to return after completing its...
Well, there are bigger stars with bigger gravitational pulls in different solar systems and different galaxies. So, and because there's no wind resistance in space, if their original launch speed is higher already, it will keep going unless it literally, well, it doesn't really affect that much. Space is kind of wonky when it comes to that. But it's still not like weird, even though it's faster than anything we have in our solar system. Our solar system is kind of unique when it comes to like things. Piles of human ashes. In August, the Nevada desert became the site of one of 2025's most unsettling mysteries when 300 plus piles of human ashes were found near Las Vegas. Police still have no idea where they came from. The person who discovered the piles, who asked to remain anonymous, alerted the authorities, who confirmed that the remains were human remains. While scattering ashes on public land is legal, funeral homes face strict limits on how they may do so. There is no evidence that the funeral home was involved. The alternative is far more chilling. I mean, I don't really want to speculate, because that's not like... It could be mafia related. It might be like... If it's in Nevada, it could be like related to... Well, it's close to Las Vegas, so it could be actually like organized crime related. It could be also like human trafficking related, just crime related. It could be... Hey, thanks for the follow. It might also be funeral homes. There's so many different... But this is not really newsworthy, to be fair. ChatGPT psychosis. We're gonna already touch upon this. And this is not something we need to like revisit, because I think it's kind of stupid, to be fair. Who is killing young men in Kashmir?
Let's talk about Kashmir.
In March, Mohammed Sadiq received the devastating news that his missing son, Shofkat Ahmad, has been found dead. His son's body was covered in sores, one eye was bloody, and the skin on his hands and legs was peeling. Yo, I'm back. What up, Dylan? His hair had fallen out. This came just 3 days after Sadiq learned that his eldest son, Riyaz, had also died. I'm doing fine, Dylan. Reading really weird things of 2025 that my wife sent me. Both young men had been missing for roughly a month before their bodies were found in a canal 6 miles from their home. Authorities ruled both deaths suicide. The family disagrees. They maintain the boys were tortured and killed, and they say other young men have gone missing across the region in 2025. Some later found dead under similar circumstances. One of the boys who disappeared with them, Mukhtar Ahmad Avan, has not been found. Local protests follow, sometimes met with police force, yet officials still refuse to consider murder as a possibility. I'll be back in a sec, that's fine.
A beautiful,
easy for us Kashmiris.
They say when two elephants fight, it's the grass that is trampled upon. We are the grass.
Some people are scared to talk openly about what's going on.
You always feel like somebody is watching.
So what's behind that fear? And why is Kashmir such a hot spot?
Kashmir is in the north, and Kashmir is the region that is actually shared with Pakistan and others. So that's why it's a hotspot. Yeah, so Pakistan, Afghanistan, China. So it's literally a hotspot for global conflict. So there's a lot of countries that could be a part of it. India could also be a part of it. Interesting.
Rivalry between India and Pakistan. There are also tensions in India-administered Kashmir between people there and the Indian government, and there are divisions among Kashmiris themselves when it comes to questions of identity and belonging, i.e. whether they want to be part of Pakistan, India, or independent. Let's start with that first one, because these two nuclear powers have basically been fighting over this region since 1947. That's when British India was split into two.
This is something that we can return on like with proper time. But that's interesting. Where is Gus Lamont? On September 27, 4-year-old August Gus Lamont disappeared from his family homestead in South Australia. According to his grandmother, she last saw him playing outside around 5 p.m. When she went to call him in half an hour later, he was gone. The family searched for 3 hours before contacting the police. A massive 10-day search followed. Jones mounted officers, dogs, ground teams, but yielded no solid clues. Meanwhile, the story exploded on social media, generating conspiracy theories and wild speculation. As of this writing, there have been no new developments. Police do not suspect foul play, but they no longer believe Gus is alive. Yeah, but that's kind of weird, though. Sounds like a kidnapping, though. But they would probably know about that. Let's talk about Israel. One of my favorite topics, you know that. One of the most divisive topics as well. The moment Israeli forces shoot dead surrendered Palestinians. Video of Israeli military raid in the West Bank shows soldiers summarily executing 2 Palestinians they had detained seconds earlier. The shooting on Thursday evening, which was also witnessed by journalists close to the scene, is under review by the Justice Ministry but has already been defended by Israel's far-right minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who said terrorists must die. Julian Borger, the Guardian's senior international correspondent based in Jerusalem, analyzed footage of the event. So, this is a war crime broadcasted to the world. And this needs to have repercussions. Whether you can, whenever you capture an enemy, whether it's like military forces or in this case terrorists, if they surrender, you are not allowed to shoot them. An unarmed person who surrenders. That's just the rules. So this is textbook 101. What's a war crime? And they wanted to try and hide the executions, so you see that opening there. So they didn't shoot them openly. They forced them back there and shoot them. But then they noticed that there's journalists on the other side of the road. And they kind of probably knew they were fucked, which they were. So that's openly committing war crimes. Hopefully that has some repercussions. Hopefully Israel gets some pushback because of that. Give some time to my daughter. Let's see if the... Oh, we have an update on the Venezuela situation.
What's up, guys? Pete Hegseth, Department of War. We've got the narco-terrorists on the run, and we're gonna take them out. Yeah!
Oh my God.
Acting like a tough guy, posting it around the world. Making lots of content like a little teenage girl.
That should be Pete Hegseth's theme song from now on. Yeah, there was a measles outbreak. Trump's FBI spent nearly $1 million on redacting Epstein files. They're protecting pedophiles. That is true. Here we go. We have only just begun to kill narco-terrorists. Beat fucking Hegseth. Beat Jägermeister Hegseth. I don't think Pete Hegseth knows that Donald Trump is going to pardon a drug lord that... What was the final number? I think they provided how many tons of cocaine? Let's see if we can find Juan Orlando Hernandez. Let's find a better source of news. I want to see the drug numbers because they were fucking insane. Here we go. So Trump's fight against drugs is not going as planned because Trump wants to attack Venezuela because he claims that Venezuelan president was a part of the drug trafficking ring. On the same time, he's pardoning Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was the kingpin trafficking how many tons? 400 tons of cocaine through Honduras to the United States. Prosecutors had accused Hernandez of conspiring with drug cartels during his tenure as they moved more than 400 tons of cocaine through Honduras toward the United States. In exchange, prosecutors said Hernandez received millions of dollars in bribes that he used to fuel his rise in Honduras politics. During his years in office, the Justice Department said Hernandez protected and enriched the drug traffickers in his inner circle. Prosecutors cited his use of executive power to support extraditions to the U.S. of certain drug traffickers who threatened his grip on power, while promising drug traffickers who paid him and followed his instructions that they would remain in Honduras. The president announced comes on his administration has focused in recent months on what it has said is a counter-drug operations in the Caribbean, with U.S. military activity ramping up there. Hernandez was accused and convicted of aiding drug traffickers' cartels that are responsible for bringing deadly drugs to the U.S. By contrast, U.S. drug enforcement authorities say that many of the drug trafficking routes the Maduro regime enables are aimed at European illicit markets. So we have a convicted felon who was found guilty of being a part of a big drug trafficking cartel. 400 tons of cocaine. So actually, a person who's sentenced to jail because he was a part of the drug trafficking, bringing deadly drugs to the US. But for some reason, that person is pardoned by the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder why this person, he's going to pardon him. And at the same time, he's going to launch an attack on Venezuela. For the same reasons. Accusing the president of the same thing. I wonder. Hernandez, who denied the charges against him, has been extradited for Honduras after the U.S. Department of Justice filed 3 drug trafficking and firearms-related charges against him in 2022. Following the announcement, Hernandez's attorney thanked Trump and said, "We look forward to President Hernandez's triumphant return to Honduras. We are so grateful to President Trump and everyone who supported President Hernandez. We believe he was the victim of lawfare and political prosecution. A great injustice has been righted, and we are so hopeful for the future partnership of the United States and Honduras." On the same breath, Donald Trump is trying to affect the elections in Honduras. Democracy is on trial in the coming elections in the beautiful country of Honduras on November 30th. Will Maduro and his narco-terrorists take over another country like they have taken over Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela? The man who is standing up for democracy and fighting against Maduro is Tito Asfura, the presidential candidate of the National Party. Tito was the highly successful mayor of Tegucigalpa, where he brought running water to millions and paved hundreds of kilometers of road. His chief opponent is Rixi Moncada, who says Fidel Castro is her idol. I mean, yeah. What about that? Normally, the smart people of Honduras would reject her and elect Tito Asfura, but the communists are trying to trick the people by running a third candidate, Salvador Nasrallah. Nasrallah is no friend of freedom and borderline communist. He helped Xiomara Castro by running as her vice president. He won and helped Castro win. Then he resigned and is now pretending to be anti-communist only for the purpose of splitting Asfura's votes. The people of Honduras must not be tricked again. The only real friend of freedom is Honduras, is Tito Asfura. Tito and I can work together to fight the narco-communists. Oh my fucking god, he has a word for everything. Narco-communists. And Britain is not a reliable partner for freedom and cannot be trusted. I hope the people of Honduras vote for freedom and democracy and elect Tito Asfura president. Okay, that's just... I wonder what Tito Asfura has promised Trump. You don't get Trump's endorsements unless you promise him something. And I presume that the other candidates haven't promised Trump what he wanted to hear. I wonder if these are related. No. Okay. Really don't get like why the president of the United States is meddling with other countries' elections this much. Maybe he should just shut the fuck up and concentrate on his own country. Also, still don't understand why he has that Photoshop picture of him. Israeli once again, we're gonna end it here. This is why Netanyahu and the Israeli government should put to Hague and also trial for crimes against humanity. They are literally a threat to the stability of the Middle East at the moment. At least 13 people killed by Israeli forces during raid on southern Syria village. At least 13 people have been killed, including women and children, by Israeli forces during a raid on a southern Syrian village. One local man said, when we tried to take injured people to the hospital, they struck the car carrying them. Israeli forces have killed at least 13 people, including women and children, in their deadliest attack on Syria since they seized southern parts of the country a year ago. According to Syrian officials and state news agency Sana, Israeli forces raided the village of Beit Jin, seeking to detain local men, but opened fire when they were confronted by residents on Friday, also causing dozens of families to flee the area. Syria's foreign minister defined the attack as a horrific massacre. Israel said on Friday that it had carried out an operation in Beijing to apprehend members of the Jamaah Islamiyah militant group who were planning IED and rocket attacks into Israel. It said other militants opened fire on the troops, injuring 6 soldiers, and that forces returned fire supported by aircraft. According to Israel, the operation has now ended. All suspects have been detained and several militants were killed. They always have like that scapegoat reason why they are killing innocents, you know? Yeah, they opened fire first. No proof of that. But we did drop up quite a lot of bombs on them. So, I don't know. Just stupid. A local official, Valid Okasa, told the AP that those killed were civilians. Victims also included a couple and their 2 children, as well as the children's uncle and another man who had married the previous day. And the scapegoat answer from the Israeli government would be, well, they are using them as human shields. If you don't have a clear shot, and you have a risk of killing innocent lives, especially children, you don't fucking take that shot. It's easy. You just don't pull that trigger. It's not rocket science, you know? If you're planning to fire a rocket into a building and you see that there's a lot of children there that are innocent, instead of pushing the button and sending that rocket to that building, you might want to be like, okay, we might need to find a better way to do this than this, you know? The troops moved in around 3 a.m. and encountered slight resistance with light weapons. He said Israeli forces responded with drones, helicopters, and heavy machine gun fire. Whenever anyone moved inside the village or any car moved, it would get hit. When we tried to take injured people to the hospital, they struck the car carrying them. Since the fall of former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in December 2024, Israeli forces have seized the stretch of southern Syria that once formed a part of an UN-monitored buffer zone created under the 1974 disengagement agreement. Israeli troops have since carried out regular operations in towns and villages both inside and beyond the zone, including raids to capture people it accuses of being militants. Israel has also conducted hundreds of airstrikes on Syrian military sites and has pushed over demilitarization around south of Damascus. I have a better plan here. What if Israel just fucks off to its own territory? Or if they have that buffer zone, don't cross the fucking buffer zone. Easy. I don't understand why they are so eager to kill people. That's the thing I don't understand. And they have a reason for killing. They make a reason for killing. One of the most murderous nations you have. Not nations, okay. The people aren't blame. It's the soldiers and the government and Netanyahu. Yeah, I do think that something needs to be done to Israel to calm things down. Some intervention from the international body would be in place. Venezuela has accused US President Donald Trump of making colonialist threat after he said the airspace around the country should be considered closed. The country's foreign minister called Trump's comments another extravagant, illegal, and unjustified aggression against the Venezuelan people. The US does not legally have the authority to close another country's airspace, but Trump's online post could lead to travel uncertainty and to deter airlines from operating there. The US has been building its military presence in the Caribbean, which officials say is to combat drug smuggling. Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro has dismissed US claims of drug trafficking as an attempt to oust him. Well, it kind of sounds like that. They are trying to oust the current president and put one that's a friend of Trump, and then they get cheap oil from them. And then all of a sudden they don't care about trucks anymore. The US has been building its military presence in the Caribbean, yeah. In a post on Truth Social, Trump wrote to all airline pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed. Do we have a comment from the White House? I don't think we have. Nope. Okay, good. They haven't really updated themselves yet. Okay. That's too long to read and probably bullshit. Donald J. Trump is the best president, blah, 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 isn't... Venezuela military is on full alert as fighter jets conduct combat patrols in preparation for US strike coming in the next few hours. Okay, we will see a war from the most peaceful president ever. But yeah, that's gonna be enough for today on the brink of war starting. But yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for being here.